The fall of Bashar al-Assad and his arrival in Moscow underlines the immense global tremors shaking the Middle East. And whether Assad arrived in Moscow yesterday, as Moscow claims and the TASS news agency claims today, a few minutes ago, that this is what had happened, or whether he had in fact arrived much earlier in the week, as had been reported by various outlets, I have no idea of knowing. The last public appearance he made was, I think, last Sunday when he met with Iranian diplomats, and there are photographs to prove that, in Damascus. Since then, he's been invisible. Russia's granted him asylum. It's a calculated move beyond the humanitarian pretext. This aligns with Moscow's strategy to retain influence, if it can, in Syria, and the Kremlin seeks to maintain its foothold in the Mediterranean through its bases in Tartus and elsewhere, both now on heightened alert. And Assad's departure signals the fragility of the Russian allies under strain, exacerbated by Moscow's preoccupation with fighting in Ukraine. And the vacuum left by Assad introduces a chaotic power dynamic. The interim government faces opposition from Islamic factions, including Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, whose dominance raises concerns about Syria becoming a breeding ground for extremist government. By advocating for UN-mediated peace talks, Russia seeks to project an image of a diplomatic power broker while deflecting criticism for its role in prolonging the Syrian conflict. Israel's military operations, however, have extended into Syria, including strikes on Damascus research facilities, with an aim to disrupt Iranian-backed infrastructure, particularly long-range missile development. And the deployment reflects Israel's increasing need to address threats on multiple fronts, including Gaza, Lebanon, and the West Bank. But maybe this is also about Netanyahu's pugilistic overreach. And with Israeli presence in Syria, there's more regional. There's more escalation of regional tension, particularly with Iran and its proxies, and Tehran, already weakened, faces compounded challenges as its Syrian ally collapses. The swift fall of Damascus to Islamist-led rebels marks a dramatic shift in Syria's civil war narrative. The rebel leader Abu Muhammad al-Jolani's rhetoric from the Umayyad Mosque frames the victory as a way to reclaim life from tyranny, but it also introduces fears of a more fragmented Syria. And President Biden's emphasis on an historic opportunity underscores Western interest in stabilizing Syria to prevent the resurgence of ISIS or of other groups. But however much the US remains cautious, maintaining its eastern Syrian presence will be essential to protect its Kurdish allies. And I think it's in the interests of Turkey to establish a proper relationship with the Kurdish communities, particularly those who don't espouse or support the PKK. Assad's outer Assad's outing, Assad's departure, Assad's removal weakens Iran's influence and underscores Russia's limited capacity to safeguard its allies. And for Turkey and other regional players, the power vacuum is an opportunity, but also a risk of uncontainable spillovers. And this dramatic chapter in Syrian history, reveals a region on the brink of redefinition, as Assad's asylum solidifies Moscow's role as a retreat for failed tyrants, while Israel's provocative engagement signals its determination to preempt threats and to continue to respond to Iranian hostility. I think there's a point at which it is possible that Iran itself could also collapse, and one hopes that that's the case. If Iran were to collapse, if there were a domino effect from Syria, then that would seriously isolate Russia, and it would seriously threaten the the supply routes for Russia for its weapons. But at the same time, it would build up even greater instability across the Middle East. For Syrian people, the post-Assad era offers both hope for rebuilding and the peril of further instability. It's absolutely essential now that Syria is given the opportunity to navigate its way out of this volatile landscape carefully, to balance humanitarian imperatives with strategic foresight, and to move with the support. And I hope that's the support of Israel rather than the antagonism of Israel. But Israel's targeting of Iran's structures, this is opportunistic. This opportunistic move, particularly on the back of requests by Assad for Israeli help in maintaining his position, it's ominous. I find it very ominous. As for Assad, well, I'm sure he'll be very happy in Moscow.